Good afternoon. I'm Peter Eliasberg, and I'm the legal director of the ACLU Foundation of Southern California. In September of 2011, the ACLU released a report that described horrific levels of excessive and unnecessary force in the Los Angeles County jails by sheriff's deputies against inmates. That very same week, the Los Angeles Times ran a front-page story announcing that the FBI and the federal government were doing a criminal investigation into deputy abuse of inmates in the Los Angeles County jails. In response, the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors created a citizens' commission on jail violence to investigate the scope of the problem and make recommendations to address it. Far too often, as many of you know, Blue Ribbon Commissions and the creation of Blue Ribbon Commissions are a feel-good, symbolic effort to pretend to do something about a problem that achieves little. But there are exceptions. Certainly, the Christopher Commission is one of them. That commission and its report and its work played a substantial role in reforming the Los Angeles Police Department and improving the community of Los Angeles. But as you know, there are many of these reports that sit gathering dust in libraries that achieve nothing. I firmly believe that the Jail Commission's report will be considered as important, if not more so, than the report done by the Christopher Commission. It was so thorough in its findings and its work, and so masterful in the recommendations for reform that it made, that no reasonable person after the release of the report could debate the scope of the problem. And no reasonable person could say, look at these recommendations for reform and say that they should not be implemented. Now, of course, the members, the appointed members of the commission themselves played a very important part in the success of this report. Already we're seeing changes in the jails. A lot has been done, although much more needs to be done still. But this commission would not have been successful simply because of the 6 distinguished members of the commission itself. There were 2 key ingredients. One was the incredible role played by the executive director of the commission, Miriam Krinsky, and its general counsel, Rick Drurian. Their tireless work, their vision for how to take and look at a problem like this and figure out how do we make a report that is credible and is unrebuttable, really, and how do we come up with the recommendations? That wasn't an easy task, and they didn't have a long time to do it. And yet, over the course of a year, for those of you, and I may have been one of the few people other than the commission members themselves who attended every meeting of the commission, the process unfolded sort of like a Dickens nonfiction novel in which testimony and witnesses came forward and questioning was done, and the scope of the problem unfolded, and the need for reform was clear, and the kind of reform that was necessary became clear. But they, too, also couldn't have done this alone. It was only because of the commitment of 9 firms, the incredible pro bono commitment of 9 firms, whom we honor here today, along with Ms. Krinsky. With the, I think one of the commission members said he did a back-of-the-envelope calculation, and there was probably $6 million of pro bono commitment by these firms over the course of this process. I think that he may have been missing a 0 in that calculation. So the work of these firms, whom I'm going to announce in reverse alphabetical order, and I would like for one representative of each firm to come up, along with Ms. Krinsky, to accept it. Unfortunately, it wouldn't be safe to bring everybody who worked on this up to the stage. We are so grateful that so many people and so many firms contributed to this effort, but we couldn't put them all up here. So I'd like one member of each firm to come up. The firms are in reverse alphabetical order: White and Case, Sidley Austin, Reed Smith, Proskauer Rose, O'Melveny and Myers, Munger, Tolles and Olson, Latham and Watkins, Kendall, Brill and Klieger, and Gibson, Dunn and Crutcher. It was their enormous commitment that allowed the commission and its staff to go through more than 30,000 pages of document, to interview hundreds of witnesses, to bring to the fore the corrections expertise of people from around the country to help develop the roadmap for reform that was necessary. And because of this extraordinary commitment, we're proud to give this year's ACLU Community Service Pro Bono Award to Miriam Krinsky and the 9 firms that I have announced here today. And one last thing, because we can't bring all the members who worked on this up to the stage, I would like them all to stand, and we will take pictures after the lunch. We can't do it right as the lunch is continuing, but I'd like everybody who worked from the firms who worked on this, please stand.
Well, as you can see, this was quite a team, and it's very humbling to be up here and in some way to try to accept this on behalf of this mass of LA's most formidable legal talent. First and foremost, though, I'd like to thank Peter and Esther Lynn and the ACLU. You all were the ones who put a bright spotlight on these issues, and you ensured that those in our prisons who far too often are disempowered, disbelieved, and have no champion at all would not be overlooked and would not be cast aside. You laid the groundwork for what we did, you ensured that there would be a commission, and you left us a trail to follow as our work proceeded. I also want to echo Peter's acknowledgement for the person who is the common thread in every report that does not gather dust, namely Rick Druyan. Rick was our quarterback, he was our anchor, he was our glue, and he kept us on track throughout. There is truly nobody in this city that equals Rick in the ability to carry out a project of this kind of magnitude. I also want to thank our wonderful commissioners. They may not have realized what they signed on for, but as they did, not one of them ran for cover, and they truly were more than figureheads. They engaged at every step of the way. Even with all of that starting point, we knew that an effort that in 9 months would involve interviews of over 150 witnesses, poring through over 35,000 documents, conducting over 6 hearings with live witnesses throughout, was an uphill climb and a Herculean task. But they say that you can achieve great heights if you stand on the shoulders of giants. Well, these were our giants throughout the room. These law firms and the lawyers who gave generously of their time that we're honoring today ensured that this task would reach the finish line. We could not have done it without all of you. And I think we know in no uncertain terms that this collection of LA's best truly represents what being a lawyer and ensuring that we can do justice for all in our community has to be about. And your work has had a significant impact. Today, there are nearly 20,000 men and women who are held in our county's jails and who are under the supervision of our sheriff's department. Countless more will pass through those hallways and through those facilities every month and every year. While they're charged with criminal act, and while we have faith in our justice system to do right and to hold them accountable if they have created misdeeds, they are also part of our community. Those men and women have mothers and fathers and loved ones. They're entitled to be housed in a jail where they can be safe and they can be free from abuse, humiliation, and fear. What happens inside our jails, behind those closed doors and too often shielded from public view, impacts all of us. It comes home with those prisoners after they go back to our communities, and it's embedded in the fabric of our entire society. I'd like to thank the lawyers and the firms that took that starting point to heart and that ensured that we could move away from a jail system that in past decades had been plagued by our persistent problems of violence and a troubling mindset, and that we could move toward a safer and more humane jail and a safer and more humane community. Thank you.